Hey guys, this is Kevin again. I was also formerly known as Kuya Kevin when I lived in the Philippines. But anyway, it's a cold morning here in Alabama, and I decided that as I'm working on these series of videos for expats, I decided to do a video on getting married in the Philippines. Let's say you have moved to the Philippines, or you're thinking about moving to the Philippines, and you've met the girl of your dreams and you are convinced that she is a good match for you. The next thing that you may want to decide about, or you will decide about, is do you want to get married in the Philippines or do you want to get married in the US? And I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the advantages and the disadvantages of each choice. Uh, First, I'll go with the disadvantage of getting married in the Philippines, and it's a big one. It's the reason why most people don't do that, or many don't do that. The biggest disadvantage of getting married in the Philippines is the spousal visa. That's what you would apply for if you marry in the Philippines and then want her to move back to your home country. The spousal visa, at least for the USA, takes anywhere between 11 and 12 months. It can move a little bit more quickly than that, but generally speaking, if you're going to do a spousal visa, you need to be prepared psychologically to wait for about a year. The fiance visa, on the other hand, only takes about 6 months generally, maybe a little longer, maybe a little, maybe it may happen a little more quickly. So a lot of guys, they're living in the U.S., for example. They meet someone in the Philippines, and their goal is to be married and living together under one roof as quickly as possible. If that's your situation, then probably the fiance visa is, going to be the better route for you. Now, when I first learned this, it does sound kind of backwards. It seems like a spouse would get more priority than a fiance. And the reason behind this is when you do a fiance visa, basically you're just asking the government for permission for the fiance to enter into the country. Then you get married, and then you apply for visa status, green card, the 2 year green card, and that kind of thing. When you do a spousal visa, you're already applying for that initial 2 year visa, and that's why the process takes longer. So anyway, that's the biggest disadvantage to getting married in the Philippines, is that you're going to have to wait longer to bring her back to your home country if that's your goal. But there are also advantages, and I'll talk about those. My wife and I did get married in the Philippines because I was living there at the time, and we knew our long-term goal was to move back here, but we were not really in a rush to do that. The first advantage is that her entire family can see the wedding. And that can be a really nice thing, especially if she's eventually going to leave her country. At least her family can, watch her get married. And I'm probably like a lot of other guys out there. For me, it was one of those things for me, I kind of consider the wedding to be more for the bride than for the groom. And, I would have just been fine with me if we'd had something even more simple than what we did. It doesn't really, in other words, most grooms, most men in general, are not nearly as, particular about what a wedding ceremony is like. Women, on the other hand, as you know, dream about this day from the time they're little girls until the day it happens. So it is kind of nice to be able to have her family there, have anyone that's important to her come and see the wedding. For me, that's the biggest advantage of getting married in the Philippines versus getting married in the United States. One thing let me go ahead and get to the next reason. The next advantage of getting a wedding done in the Philippines is it's going to be less expensive, probably. Now, I'm not saying that when you do a wedding there that it's dirt cheap. You can spend, if you ask me how much it cost, I cannot give you an answer to that because it depends on so many variables. If you want to spend $50,000 on a wedding in the Philippines, you could do that if you wanted to. But just generally speaking, for a more reasonable or modest ceremony, it's probably going to cost you less in the Philippines than it would in America. One thing I will add here is that one thing my wife and I decided to do to kind of keep the cost under control is we decided that the guest list would be about 100 100 to 120 people. We wanted the people that we wanted my wife's family there. We wanted some of her close friends there, a few of my friends, but we were not trying to impress anybody and invite the entire province to the wedding. We weren't trying to do that. But anyway, generally speaking, in the Philippines, you can do a wedding for less money than it would cost you to do in the U.S. Another thing that I'll add here, I wasn't planning to add this, but my impression is that if you do have the money, you can get things done pretty quickly. My wife had our whole wedding planned. I proposed to her in January. We were married in March, and my wife had the whole wedding planned for the most part in about 6 weeks. So it can be done pretty quickly as long as you can know what you want and can produce the money pretty quickly. So those are probably the main advantages. Her family can be there, and the cost is lower. One other thing I'll mention, this is not a really big deal, but I'll go ahead and mention it. If you get married in the Philippines, from a visa standpoint, one thing that's kind of nice about it is you have solid documentation of your relationship, because you will eventually get, of course, a marriage license. She can change her passport over to her married name. In other words, you kind of have a rock solid case, so to speak, with the embassy, with the U.S. government, when you're applying for the spousal visa. So those are a few things to consider. Now quickly, I'm going to bear with me, I'm looking at notes again. If you are, okay, I'm sorry, one more thing I need to mention. Sorry, I forgot it's on my notes. When you do a spousal visa, here's another advantage to getting married in the Philippines. Okay, the process of getting her to the U.S. does take longer. I mentioned that. But because of the differences between a spousal visa and a fiancé visa, if you get married in the Philippines, once she does arrive in the U.S., she is further along in the visa process versus a fiancé visa. Remember I said earlier, fiancé visa is just permission to get in the country, and you follow up on a lot of the steps in your own country. With a spousal visa, when my wife and I finally got the visa approved and moved here to the U.S., I mean, she had her social security card and green card and other things just literally within days. And if you think about it, that can be important, because things like her ability to work, her ability to get a driver's license, all those things, you need a green card to do all those things. So even though a fiancé visa is faster, one issue, and I know guys that have done the fiancé visa that are friends of mine, one issue is sometimes the fiancé kind of gets bored because she gets here, and then after she's married, she can't get a license, she can't work, and things like that. So again, it's just something to consider. So let me quickly get into some of the things you'll need to do if you decide to get married in the Philippines. It's not really all that complicated, but both of you will need a copy. You'll basically need two things to get the whole process started. Both you and your fiance. You will need a birth certificate, a genuine birth certificate, a certified birth certificate. Both of you will need that. And both of you will need proof that you are legally eligible to marry. Now, a Filipino citizen can just get online and request something called a Sinamar, I believe it's called, basically a certificate of no marriage. And they can request that, and it'll get to you in a few days if you pay for it online. If you're an American citizen, what you will have to do is go to the embassy. You make an appointment online. You go to the embassy. And if, like me, you're single, a bachelor, you just go in there and sign something and take an oath that you're not lying, that you're single. If you have been previously married, then you need to bring some type of certificate of divorce, or if you're a widow or widower, you need to bring a death certificate. Basically, you're going into the embassy with the documentation you need, if there is any, to prove that you are eligible to marry. So once you have both of those things, then you go to your local courthouse there in the Philippines and you apply for the license. It's not expensive. After you've applied for the license, you do have to go to this a seminar, I guess you could call it, before they will approve your license. So you go to the courthouse, present your documentation. Then you have to go. They'll tell you where to go do this, but somewhere nearby, you attend this seminar to, I guess, where they're supposed to tell you how to be a happily married couple. For me, how can I say this nicely? I was not terribly impressed with the seminar, but it's a step that you have to take if you want to get married. So you go to the seminar. After you've attended the seminar, they will give you some type of receipt or slip telling you that you were, verifying that you were there. You hang on to that, and then within about 10 days or so of your application for marriage license, then you bring that slip to them, the proof that you attended the seminar, and they'll give you your marriage license. Quickly, one or two more things. Once you have your marriage license, you can decide where you want to, how you want to go about doing the ceremony. You can do a Catholic ceremony, of course. You can also do anything that's not a Catholic ceremony, if I remember this correctly, is considered a civil ceremony. Now, my wife and I had a pastor marry us, but technically it's still considered a civil ceremony. Not just any pastor in the Philippines can do weddings. They have to get specific registration, so keep that in mind. Then once you're married, the pastor or priest or judge will they'll file that all the documentation for the marriage, and you will get a local marriage certificate fairly quickly. But then it takes a while, a few months later, like within 3 months, then you get the national marriage certificate, and that's the one you're going to want to have when you apply for the marriage visa, the spousal visa. That's another reason the spousal visa can take a while. It takes a little while just to get all the documentation that you need to apply. Now, again, you may be able to go ahead and apply for the spousal visa with the local certificate. I'm not sure about that, but I was advised to wait until we had the NSO certificate, which is the national one. So anyway, those are some thoughts on getting married in the Philippines. If you have questions or comments about this or about anything related to being an expat in the Philippines, feel free to say so in the comment section. One thing I will say, if you have a complicated question about visas, I'm probably not the guy to ask, because I used a service called Filipina Fiance Visa just to make sure I was doing everything correctly. So, I'm not an expert on visa. I'm just telling you what I remember and understand about the process of, getting married in the Philippines. So anyway, hope you guys have a great day or night or whatever, wherever you are. So I'll get back to you again when I think of something else to do a video about.